Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm gonna be doing the much requested upcycling of a t-shirt into a baby romper like this one. So a few things that I wanted to talk about first. A lot of people are asking me what size t-shirts I was using and what size my daughter wears. And to be honest, it really kind of all depends what kind of style you're looking for, what design the shirt has, how much, if it's enough space for the romper. So these are a few that I had gotten. So this one here, as you can see, the design is kind of a lot. So, and I have a lot of extra room down here. So when I do my romper, probably the whole design here is going to cover up most of my romper, kind of like this one did here. And it just depends on how, like, if you're okay with the whole design going throughout the whole romper, or if you want it to be kind of centralized up here. So like this one here, the design is kind of more up here. So my design is probably going to be up towards more of the top of the romper, and then the bottom is going to probably not have as much of the design, which I'm fine with. So it honestly just depends on how you want your romper to look, where you want your design, and just making sure that there's enough fabric for starting from the shoulder seams all the way down to the legs. So as you can see here, you can even, if you do make one, or even take your pattern with you and just kind of lay it on top of each other, so you can kind of see where that design is going to end up. And then as you can see, I have plenty of room down here for my romper. And this one is a size large in kids. And then this one is a size large in women's. So if I hold this one up, my romper up to this one, as you can see, my design is going to be about here, halfway on my romper, and I still have plenty of room down here for it. So I hope that kind of makes sense a little bit. But yeah, definitely just kind of how you want your romper to look. And then there's ones that are kind of like this, where they don't really have a design and you could just do whatever. And this, just as long as your romper fits from top to bottom and you have enough fabric for your entire romper, then you're good to go. So as you can see, this one will definitely have a lot of room. So just how you want it, and making sure that you have enough room. And then the other thing that I wanted to say is that if you are new to working with patterns, you'll probably be a little lost in the beginning of this video. So I really suggest that you go over and watch my video on how to work with patterns, because that will definitely help you throughout the process of making a romper. So go check that out so that you're not lost in the beginning. And then if you have any other questions, let me know in the comments. Thanks, guys. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take apart the shirt. So start cutting it from the sides and from all the seams. So I'm just going to go up one of the sides here first, and then cut off the sleeve. And then I'll do the same thing to the other side. Okay, now I'm going to open it up and cut the shoulders and the neckband off. Okay, now grab your sleeves that you cut off and cut them down the seams of the sleeves and open them up. Okay, so now you have your shirt taken apart. You have your front, back, and your sleeves. Your neckbands here, sometimes I like to use them, so I just cut it in a circle instead of cutting it in half here. But it's up to you. If you don't want to use them, then it doesn't matter how you cut it. If you want to use them, make sure it's intact. Okay, so now we're going to cut it out using our pattern. I have a projector, so I'm just projecting it onto my fabric here. But if you don't have one, that's totally fine. You will just be using your paper pattern that you've printed out and cut and placed together. So you'll just place it on top of your fabric and cut it out. So now you're going to place your image where you want it to be on the front of your romper. So this is what I like here. I like it centered, so this is where I'm going to cut it out. Okay, this bottom piece is a little tricky, so I'm going to use my rotary cutter instead, so I can have a little bit more control of where I'm cutting. Okay, so I used my front shirt for the front of my romper, the back shirt for the back of my romper, and then for my neck and armbands, I decided to use this black instead. You can use any fabric that's stretchy for these parts. It doesn't have to be necessarily part of the shirt that you're using. You can use something different, but I will be using my sleeves here to cut out the binding for my snaps. So I cut one out already, now I'm going to cut the other one out. I'm just going to lay it on top and just cut it out the same length. Sorry, I'm blogging everything. I need to work on my video skills. But anyways, you can use any of the fabric that you've cut off of the shirt for your pattern pieces, or you can use something else. It's completely up to you. Alright, so now that we have all our pieces from our pattern cut out, we are going to start sewing. Okay, so first grab your front and back pieces. You're going to lay them together with the right sides of the fabric together. So as you can see, this is the back of my shirt, so I'm going to lay that together with my front piece. I'm going to match up those shoulder seams here and clip them in place. Sorry again for the blocking. I will work on it, I promise. Okay, now that you have those clipped, you're going to sew across both of those. Alright, so now those are both sewn. Now you're going to grab your neckband. You're going to fold it in half and match up those ends and clip it. Then you're going to sew across. Okay, once that's sewn, you're going to grab it and you're going to open it up. Where that seam is, you're going to start folding it in half and clipping as you go, or pinning. Alright, so now that you kind of have it all folded up, you're going to quarter off that neckband. So start where your seam is and you're going to clip it there, and then you're going to stretch it and make it kind of in half, and then you're going to clip right across from that seam. So clip there. Then you're going to take both of those side ones and you're going to bring them towards the middle. Match them up, and sorry about this, but basically once those are matched up, you'll put those other clips to those sides. So now you're going to have 4/4, and you'll be able to see this better when I do the shoulder seams. Okay, so now mark the middle of your front and back pieces. And then you're going to grab your neckband, start with your seam is there, and you're going to place that in the back. So your raw sides are up, and you're going to match that up with the raw side of the shirt, inside of the shirt. So now that's pinned in place. Now you're going to do the front. So make sure that your neckband is not twisted up. Find that front center, clip it with your other marking here on your neckband. So now you have your front and your back clipped together. So you're going to grab those two clips and you're going to kind of stretch it out a little bit until both of those are even, and then you're going to clip that in the middle. And then you'll do the same thing for the next side. Alright, so once that's done, you have that on there, and when you're first starting, it's a good idea to clip all the way around a little bit more so that your neckband isn't moving around as you sew. So I would add a little bit more clips to that neckband. And once you have it all clipped together, you're going to sew all the way around. And one important part, the neckband is always going to be a little smaller than your actual neck hole. So as you sew, you're just going to end up stretching that neckband a little bit just so that it matches up with your neck hole. Okay, when you're doing neckbands, you want to go slow and stop quite often and readjust, making sure that you're grabbing all of those layers and sewing all of them together. Once that's done, your neckband will look like this. So now what you're going to do is you're going to grab your piece here and you're going to turn it inside out. So right sides of the fabrics together again. You're going to lay it out flat. You're going to line up those sides. You're going to start pinning the sides here, making sure they line up. Alright, and once you have those lined up, you're going to start pinning those sides together. And once you have both those clipped up, you're going to sew across both of those. Alright, and once that's done, it will look like this. Now you're going to grab your sleeve bands. Same thing that we did with our neckband. We're going to grab it, fold it in half, and clip. Same thing with our other one. Grab, fold in half, and clip. Now you're just going to sew across both of those. Alright, once those are sewn together, you're going to grab it where the seam is, pull it apart, and fold it in half. Start clipping that in half. Alright, so now we're going to start cording off this band. So here's my seam. Now I'm going to clip right across from it, which this one's actually pretty good, but just a little bit. And then those two are equal. So now I'm going to bring both of those together, line them up just like this, and then I'm going to adjust those clips so that they're on the sides. So now I have 4 equal parts. And I'm going to do the same thing with my other band, and now we're going to add them to the shirt. Alright, so now I'm going to just mark the middle of those sleeves. So that's the middle there, and then that's the middle there. So now I have 4 equal parts of my sleeve and my shoulder band. So I'm going to grab my shoulder band, find my seam, and find my side seam here, and I'm going to match those up. Then I'll do the same thing with my other seam, find that side here, and I'm going to line it up with my shoulder seam. And now I'm going to line up the middles here. Alright, so now that you have that done, you can add more clips or pins if you want, and then you'll do the same thing to your other side. And now you'll just sew like you did with your neckband, stretching as you go. Not too much stretching, just enough to make it equal that neck hole. Alright, so now you are done with your neck bands and your shoulder bands here. So now we're going to work on the bottom. So first thing you're going to do is going to open those up here. You're going to hem the leg holes here. So there is a few ways to do it, depending on which machine you have. So if you have a regular sewing machine, what you're going to do is you're going to fold it up about 1/4 to 1/2 inch and then fold it up again. And then you're going to sew on top of that. If you have a serger, what you could do is you can serge the edge here, fold it up, and sew. I have a cover stitch, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold it up and sew over it with my cover stitch. Either way works fine. Alright, so now I have my hems clipped, and now I'm ready to sew. Okay, so this is my cover stitch, and this is what I'll be using. I'm just going to stitch right over that fold. Alright, so now we have our leg holes hemmed here. So now we're going to add our binding for our snaps. So grab your binding here. You're going to fold it in half and clip it. Same thing to the other one. And now we're going to add it to our romper. So you're going to face your raw sides of your fabric up, and you're going to match them with the raw sides of your romper snap area. So as you can see here, these are the raw sides of my binding, and I'm going to start matching that up with my romper. And you want the binding to come off a little bit. It's just not going to match up completely. The binding is going to be a little bit bigger than your snap area, and that's meant to be that way. So as you can see here, my band is a little bigger. I'm just clipping it in place. So now I have that clipped in place, and now I'm going to do the same thing with my other side. Alright, so once you have that clipped in place, you're just going to sew across both of those. Alright, once that is done, you will have your bands on your snap area. So now what you're going to do is you're going to fold that extra fabric that you had in a little. So fold it in and clip all 4 of those sides. Alright, and once those are clipped, you are going to sew down there just to secure it down. Alright, once that is done, you're going to see there's some extra fabric here, so you're just going to snip that off. And you'll do that with all 4 of your sides here. Alright, and once that is done, you're going to have your snap band here ready to go. So now you'll just need to add your snaps. So what you're going to need for your snaps are your snaps here. You have female, a male, and a spiky one. As you can see here, the spikes. You're going to have, this is what I like to use. It's a little gadget that came with some of the snaps that I bought. And then something to hammer with. So when you're starting, it's probably a good idea to like mark where you want them to go. So I'm going to mark here where I want my snaps to go, and then I'm going to mark the other side too, kind of matching it up with my top piece here. Alright, so when you're doing snaps, it's very important that you're placing them correctly. So I'm going to have my bottom piece come up and snap with my top piece. So I want to make sure that I'm adding my snaps correctly. So that's going to be coming down and that's going to be coming up. So I want my snaps to be facing towards me here, and then my snaps on this side to be facing away from me. That will make a little bit more sense once we get into it. So first of all, you're going to lay that flat, and you're going to add your spiky underneath. So grab your piece here, add that to your circle here, and then you're going to place that on top just like this. So now you're going to start poking those spikes through just a little bit. It doesn't have to be all the way out, but just enough. And then you're going to drop down the first part here. Alright, then you're going to grab your other piece of the snap. This is what I'm going to use first. the female part of the snap, and that's going to go in this way. And then you're going to lower the second part down, and then you're going to hammer it. Give it a good whack all the way around. And then you have your snap. So I'm going to go ahead and add the other two. Alright, I have all three of my snaps here added. Now I'm going to add my bottom part. So, like I said, I want this to come up here and snap. So I'm going to place my piece here, there, so that it will come up and snap. So I'm going to grab my spikes here, and I'm going to put it on my device here, and then I'm going to poke it through my fabric. Drop my first part here. Okay, now I'm going to add my male version of the snap, and that part is going to be facing up. I'm going to put that down there. Now I'm going to drop the second part. Give it a good whack. Alright, then I have my snaps. Now I'm going to add my other ones on. Okay, now I have all my snaps on there, and they snap in correctly. So I am happy with that. And there you have it. Super cute romper made out of a thrifted shirt. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. I have another tutorial that I'm going to be doing of a different romper. If you saw my other TikTok, it's going to be that one. But yeah, so if you want to see how that one's done, stay tuned. It'll be up very, very soon. So yeah, thanks guys. I'll see you next time.